Welcome back to another edition of the Saturday to Sunday Football Podcast. I am Paul Perdichizzi, and thank you for joining me as always. The summer is set to kick in, but here at Saturday to Sunday, we continue to cover all things the 2025 NFL Draft. If you have missed any of the last few episodes, I went through and did my updated Dynasty Rookie rankings for people who still have those June rookie drafts. Most recent episode, which was about 2 weeks ago, so we had a little bit of a 2-week break here. I did the sleepers that were the UDFA sleepers that I thought could make a name and have some fantasy viability. Tonight coming back, and I always love doing this exercise, combining last year's rookie class with this year's rookie class for a combined Dynasty Rookie and second year players ranking show. I think it's a great resource to have for Dynasty Rookie drafts. I think it's a great resource to have for startup Dynasty drafts. I think it's a great resource to have for just general trade discussions, incorporating what we thought of them as prospects last year, what we saw from them in their rookie years, and now incorporating the new rookies into what we know about those second year players now as they head into their second NFL season. I think it creates an interesting dynamic of trying to rank those prospects and sort them out. So I'm going to jump right into it. Number one, on my combined Dynasty rookie and second year rankings, it's obviously Jaden Daniels out of Washington. Number 2 is Caleb Williams in Chicago. Number 3 is Drake May in New England. Number 4 is Bo Nix in Denver. Number 5 is J.J. McCarthy in Minnesota. Then comes number 6, Cam Ward of Tennessee. Number 7 is Michael Penix Jr. of Atlanta. Number 8 is Jackson Dart of the Giants. Number 9 is Jalen Milroe of the Seahawks. Number 10 is Tyler Shuck of New Orleans. Number 11 is Shedeur Sanders of the Browns. Number 12 is Dylan Gabriel of the Browns. Number 13 is Will Howard of the Steelers. Number 14 is Quinn Ewers of Miami. And number 15 is Spencer Rattler of the Saints. Couple interesting points I think are right off the bat. Jaden Daniels is the clear-cut number 1. We saw what he did last year. He has a chance to be an elite dynasty quarterback for years and years to come with the combination of the throwing and the rushing ability. Very similar in terms of the impact he could have with his legs and throwing of what we've seen with Lamar Jackson. I think it's really interesting, though, when you try to sort out 2, 3, and even 4. We saw Bo Nix have an unbelievable fantasy season last year. Better than Caleb Williams, better than Drake May. But this is still for Dynasty. I'm going to buy in still on Caleb Williams and Drake May. I had them ranked higher than Bo Nix coming out last year. I know Bo Nix had a great year. I know Sean Payton is attached to the hip with him, and that creates a lot of fantasy goodness for Bo Nix. But now we got Ben Johnson in Chicago. We got an upgraded offensive line. We got even more playmakers. That I think we're going to see Caleb Williams take that next step to be a very good to great fantasy quarterback and maybe on his way of becoming an elite fantasy quarterback. So I'm going to put him over Bo Nix. I'm going to put Drake May still over Bo Nix because I believe in the upside of Drake May. I still think we're probably, if I was picking for a redraft, I would pick Bo Nix over Drake May right now. But I'm still thinking big picture. I think the ceiling on Drake May is higher than Bo Nix, but I could understand somebody having them flip-flop. Where I think it becomes interesting for me is J.J. McCarthy, Cam Ward, Michael Penix. Now, anyone who's been a longtime listener knows that I was not nearly as high on J.J. McCarthy as some other people. I thought he was more of a late round 1 to early round 2 NFL draft prospect. For me, he would not have been the number 1 quarterback in this class. I still would have had Cam Ward over him. But he is in a pristine situation with the Vikings. The play caller, everything is set up, top of the line playmakers, a rebuilt, really solid offensive line. So I put him there. He's got a year under his belt, even though he didn't play last year. He still learned and watched a lot. So I think that is important. He's not completely raw coming in from a understanding aspect. And you put him in that situation with those playmakers and that play caller is why I have McCarthy at 5. Then I slide Cam Ward in just because I believe in Cam Ward a little bit more to player than Michael Penix. But I do think that is very much a coin flip also. We saw Michael Penix a few games. He looked really good. I'm a Michael Penix fan. I just think Cam Ward's ceiling as a prospect was a little bit higher. I think he could play off structure a little bit better, which I think fits in today's NFL. I think he's got while he might not have Michael Panik's arm talent, it's comparable, but I do believe he can play off structure a little bit better, even though right now Michael Panik has the playmakers, better playmakers for sure than what Cam Ward has. I still would go Cam Ward over Michael Panik in a dynasty setting. After that, it's the trio of the guys who went late round 1, round 2, and round 3 in this year's draft. Dart, Milroe, Shuck. Not a lot to talk about them. Those are my regular Dynasty rookie rankings from this year. No second-year players mixed in, and that kind of goes all the way down the line until you get to Spencer Rattler at 15. I just think it's going to be Tyler Shuck's going to get his chance this year. If he's is the answer, okay, they don't invest in the first round next year in a quarterback. If Tyler Shuck falls on his face or they're one of the worst teams in the league, I think you're talking about next year them investing a top pick in the first round, top 5, top 10 on a quarterback. So I would rather take my chance on any of the rookie guys, and even the guys who went late in the draft this year, like Will Howard, Quinn Ewers. I put all of them ahead of Spencer Rattler if I'm combining all my rankings here. If we pivot this to the running back discussion, I do think there's some interesting conversation here, pretty close to the top. So here are my rankings, and then I'll talk through them. Number 1 is Ashton Genty of the Raiders. Number 2 is Bucky Irvin of the Bucks. Number 3, Omarion Hampton of the Chargers. Number 4, Travion Henderson of the Patriots. Number 5, R.J. Harvey of the Broncos. Number 6, Quinshon Judkins of the Browns. Number 7, Caleb Johnson of the Steelers. Then number 8, Tyrone Tracy of the Giants. Number 9, Cam Skattebo of the Giants. Number 10, Bashal Tudin of the Jaguars. Number 11, Trey Benson of the Cardinals. Number 12, Jonathan Brooks of the Panthers. Number 13, Jarquez Hunter of the Rams. Number 14, Jalen Wright of the Dolphins. Number 15, Marshawn Lloyd of the Packers. Number 16, Braylon Allen of the Jets. Number 17, Blake Corum of the Rams. Number 18, Ray Davis of the Bills. Number 19, Dylan Sampson of the Browns. Number 20, Jaden Blue of the Cowboys. Number 21, Woody Marks of the Texans. Number 22, Devin Neal of the Saints. Number 23, Brashard Smith of the Chiefs. Number 24, Jordan James of the 49ers. Number 25, Isaac Orendo of the 49ers. Number 26, Trevor Etienne of the Panthers. Number 27, DJ Giddens of the Colts. Number 28, Taj Brooks of the Bengals. 29, Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt of the Commanders. Number 30, Kyle Monangai of the Bears. Number 31, Ollie Gordon of the Dolphins. Number 32, Will Shipley of the Philadelphia Eagles. I will stop there. There's more after that. Estime, Isaiah Davis, Damian Martinez, Phil Maffa, LaQuint Allen, and Khalil Mullins rounded out. I think the first discussion is right near the top, right? Ashton Genty, I think, is clear the number 1 in this combined rankings, even with the strong rookie year Bucky Irvin had. I do think there's a conversation between Bucky Irvin and Omarion Hampton. Bucky Irvin was a 4th-round pick. He played unbelievable his rookie year. Omarion Hampton comes in with a 1st-round pedigree, a much more higher regarded prospect coming out than Bucky Irvin. But when you tie in just how good Bucky Irvin looked last year, I think you almost got to take the prospect aspect out of it and realize that Bucky Irvin was unbelievable last year. So I think if most people for fantasy were looking, Bucky Irvin right now is considered a top 8-ish dynasty rookie, dynasty running back. I'm sure Omarion Hampton is pretty close to that as well. But I just think what Bucky Irvin did his first year gives him the nod over Omarion Hampton and the other guys in this class. So that's why I have Bucky Irvin at 2 before we get into the next wave of this year's rookie class: Hampton, Henderson, Harvey, Judkins, Caleb Johnson. I think the next pivot point was fitting in Tyrone Tracy. I think he's very much in the same tier as Cam Skattebo and Bashal Tudin. But we just saw Tyrone Tracy last year put together a really strong rookie year. And I know everybody's loving Cam Skattebo. I'm a Cam Skattebo guy. I love Cam Skattebo. But I also love Tyrone Tracy last year. And he already showed how good he could be in the NFL. And he did that behind a below average offensive line, a horrendous quarterback situation, and a very putrid offense in what the Giants put out there last year. So I do think there is some intrigue with the Tracy, Skattebo, and Tudin. I think a lot of people would put Skattebo ahead of Tracy. And listen, maybe it ends up becoming that. I could see that scenario for sure. But I am not ready Tyrone Tracy, former wide receiver, he's got pass catching ability. He's got the size that he can run inside or outside. He can run near the goal line. I'm sure that's going to be a situation where Scadaboo takes that role eventually. But I still think Tyrone Tracy could be an impact player as well. So for right now, based on what I saw, they both had day 3 draft capital. So it's not like the Giants drafted Cam Scadaboo in round 2 and Tyrone Tracy was round 5. It was round 4 and round 5. So I think right now I'm going to give the respect to Tyrone Tracy and what he did in his rookie year compared to what Cam Scadaboo, still an unknown, trying to transition into the NFL. I do think putting Trey Benson and Jonathan Brooks was a little bit of a tricky scenario. We didn't see a lot from Trey Benson. James Conner's still been very productive. I would have liked to see more. I love Trey Benson last year. He was my number 1 running back in that class. But right now, I would be more intrigued with taking Bashal Tutin over Trey Benson. They handpicked Bashal Tutin once they knew they weren't getting Ashton Genty and they pivoted to the Travis Hunter trade. They really had targeted Bashal Tutin. They wanted him. When they made that trade with the to move up for Travis Hunter, they also made sure they got that pick early in the 4th round. I think because they already knew from then they were targeting Bashal Tutin there and wanted to get him. So I think they're very high on him. I think Etienne and Bigsby are guys that they could look to move on from in the near future, whether it's during the year, maybe Etienne even before the year, during the year, or after the year. I think they like Tutin and they could see him as the lead guy there or as the lead of a committee. Benson is a little bit more of a wait and see, but I do see those two guys being very much in the similar bucket. I could see more people having Benson ahead of Tutin. I'm ready to say Tutin first, then Benson, as much as I like Benson coming out. I did squeeze Jonathan Brooks in there right after Trey Benson, just because he had really good draft capital. He was one of the top running backs in the class last year. If he was not hurt, he would have been drafted higher in the NFL draft. But then we see him come back, then he hurts it again. Who knows? His career might never be the same, but I think I'd still rather, if I could stash him, would rather stash Jonathan Brooks over Jarquez Hunter and the rest of the guys from last year or this year's running back class. But I do understand someone saying, you know what, I'd rather take a chance on a Hunter or Lloyd or Wright or Braylon Allen over a Jonathan Brooks. I could understand that mindset for sure in that situation. I do think I have Hunter over the guys from last year, who most of those guys went round 2 in rookie drafts last year. Marshawn Lloyd, Jalen Wright. I'm just intrigued by Jarquez Hunter. He's another guy that the Rams really wanted. To me, it tells me one of two things. Kyron Williams is not going to be back after this year, or they're really down on Blake Corum, or some combination of both. But I think Jarquez Hunter is going to have a real chance to become a part of that, whether they're down on Corum or whether they're going to move on from Kyron Williams at the end of the year, and then they're going to hand the reins to Hunter and Corum. I'm more intrigued with the upside of Hunter and the fact that they really wanted him, even though they drafted Blake Corum in the 3rd round. So that's why I have Hunter over the guys from last year. I could see somebody pushing Braylon Allen up a little bit. There's a lot of smoke around Breece Hall. So I think if you wanted to push Braylon Allen all the way up to number 10 or number 11, where I have Bashal Tutin and Trey Benson, I could understand that as well. I do think Braylon Allen is a little bit limited, not much of a pass catcher. So I think even if they were to move on from Breece Hall, they would be much more of a committee and a complement than just have Braylon Allen be the guy there. I am intrigued with the Jalen Wright, Marshawn Lloyd. We didn't see anything out of Marshawn Lloyd last year, mostly due to injuries, but I am worried about that. Josh Jacobs, at once upon a time, it looked like it could be a 1-year deal for the Green Bay Packers, but now that contract is not very restrictive. Running back salaries are starting to go up a little bit. Teams are more willing to pay running backs. They could easily keep Josh Jacobs for a couple years with him making like $10 to $10.5 million. So I now think there's a scenario where Josh Jacobs is going to be there all of this year and maybe even another year, and who knows, maybe all 4 years. They drafted Savion Williams, who I think is going to get some running back touches. They have Emmanuel Wilson there. So where does that leave Marshawn Lloyd? I don't even know if there's a committee right now where he can become a part of a committee. I'm more intrigued with Jalen Wright because I do think he's going to be the RB2 there for the Dolphins. So that's why I have Jalen Wright ahead of Marshawn Lloyd and ahead of a couple of the other guys from last year's class like Braylon Allen, Blake Corum, and Ray Davis before we get to the next wave of rookies like Dylan Sampson and Jaden Blue and Woody Marks. Ray Davis is another interesting one. How do you want to look at him with the James Cook holdout going on right now. If somebody wants to push him up a little bit, I understand that as well. And then I think the San Francisco one is an interesting talking point. I have Jordan James ahead of Garendo. I think if Jordan James, if Christian McCaffrey was to go down, I think Jordan James could step into a bigger role and be a more productive player, very much like what Jordan Mason was. I think Garendo, while I like his physical skill set, I do think he's a combination player or more of a committee player, uses that speed to get to the outside. I think Jordan James would be the more complete back, so I would prefer Jordan James to Isaac Garendo if we're comparing those 49ers secondary backs behind Christian McCaffrey. And then the rest of them are really the rookies from this year, the Trevor Etienne, DJ Giddens, Taj Brooks group. I have those guys before I have of guys like Will Shipley, Audric Estime, and Isaiah Davis. Just think there's a little bit more intrigue to see if they get an opportunity now in year 2. Let's take this over to the pass catchers, and let's start. Number 1 is Travis Hunter. Number 1 is Malik Neighbors out of the Giants. Number 2 is Brian Thomas out of the Jaguars. Number 3 is Travis Hunter out of the Jaguars as well. Number 4 is Marvin Harrison Jr. out of the Cardinals. Then we would pivot to the guys from this year's rookie class. So that would be the guys like number 5 would be Tet McMillan. Number 6 would be Rome Odunze. I would still put Rome Odunze there. Number 7 would be Ladd McConkey would be ahead of Rome Odunze. So I still would go Marvin Harrison, then Ladd McConkey, then Rome Odunze in that list, then Xavier Worthy, and then I would pivot back to this year's class, and then I would have up next would be Luther Burden, Matthew Golden, Emeka Egbuka, Jaden Higgins. Then I would probably have Ricky Pearsall. Next up would be Kyle Williams, followed by Jack Besh and Trey Harris. Then I think I would go Jalen Knoll. And then after that, we would go back to some of the rookies from last year's class. It would be Xavier Leggett. It would be Keon Coleman. It would be Jalen McMillan, followed by A.D. Mitchell and Roman Wilson. Those would be the guys from last year that would start to mix in a little bit into that, and then round it out with the Jalen Royals, Isaac Tesla, Jalen Lane, Pat Bryant, Savion Williams, Torrey Horton, Alec Iomanner, and Devontae Vele out of the Broncos. So that would kind of take me through my top 30 rankings. I do think this one's a very interesting because I do think there's a lot of ways. I think Neighbors clearly at the top. For me, I could understand someone having Brian Thomas 1, Malik Neighbors 2. I think those are interchangeable. I think you start to have a conversation as soon as number 3, because I could see somebody still saying, listen, we don't know about Travis Hunter. How much is he going to play only offense or predominantly offense? So if somebody wants to have Ladd McConkey or Marvin Harrison ahead of Travis Hunter, I could totally understand that. I'm going there, though, Travis Hunter 3rd. Then I would go the Ladd McConkey and Marvin Harrison. I think those are interchangeable, how you want to put them. And then I would have Tet McMillan, Luther Burden, Matthew Golden, Emeka Egbuka. Those would be the guys there that I would fit in after we talk about Rome Odunze also being in that mix. So you have that Marvin Harrison, Ladd McConkey, Travis Hunter discussion. Then I think you have the Tet McMillan, Rome Odunze discussion. And then you have the guys from this year's class like Golden, Egbuka, Jaden Higgins. I think the Ricky Pearsall, Kyle Williams, Jack Besh, Trey Harris discussion is interesting. I would prefer Ricky Pearsall over that Kyle Williams, Jack Besh, and Trey Harris, but I do think it's an interesting talking point. And then I would prefer Besh, Harris, and Jalen Knoll over the other receivers from last year like Keon Coleman, Xavier Leggett, those guys that were in that late round 1 to early round 2 range. I'm more intrigued with this year's class. I think Xavier Leggett's going to have a role for the Panthers, but I think the drafting of Tet McMillan hurts his value a little bit. And I think Keon Coleman didn't hit the ground running. I still think they're asking him to do things that don't fit in his wheelhouse. I think his wheelhouse should be a big slot. They have a lot of other slot receivers there, so I think that's going to hurt. So I'd much rather take my chance on the Kyle Williams, Jack Bash, Trey Harris, Jalen Knoll before I would want Keon Coleman or Xavier Leggett. And then the rest of those guys kind of pivot towards the rookies from this year. The only guy I think would maybe be in the mix with those other guys, and it got like A.D. Mitchell. I like them. I'm still intrigued by the skill set of A.D. Mitchell or Jalen McMillan, but I still think I would rather pivot to the prospects from this year, like Isaac Tesla, Jalen Royals, Jalen Lade, who's been killing it. I would probably put those guys before the A.D. Mitchells and Jalen McMillan's, but I would have A.D. Mitchell and Jalen McMillan ahead of Pat Bryant, Savion Williams, Torrey Horton, Alec Iomanner. I am interested with the Devontae Vele. He looks like he might have a shot to be the Broncos' number 2 wide receiver. He had a really strong early portion of last year, got hurt, came back. But I think I'd rather take my chance on Vele over guys like Chimere Dike, Ty Felton, Dante Thornton, even though a lot of glowing reports right now about Dante Thornton Jr. of the Raiders. So that's kind of how the wide receivers shake out. I do think it's probably the hardest to rank because you have that interesting dynamic at the top with Neighbors or Brian Thomas. And then I do think fitting in the Ladd McConkey, Marvin Harrison, and how high we thought of him based on how good Ladd McConkey was year one. Those two guys with Travis Hunter and then the Tet McMillan, Rome Odunze discussion, I think is a really interesting one before it kind of pivots to most of the rookies from the rookie class and not the second year class. And then let's round this out with the tight end discussion. So the tight end discussion here starts with, obviously, number 1 is Brock Bowers of the Raiders. Number 2, Colston Loveland of the Bears. Number 3, Tyler Warren of the Colts. Number 4, Elijah Arroyo of the Seahawks. Number 5, Terrence Ferguson of the Rams. Number 6, Mason Taylor of the Jets. Number 7, Harold Fannin of the Browns. Number 8, Ben Sinnott of the Commanders. Number 9, Jatavian Sanders of the Panthers. Number 10, Theo Johnson of the Giants. Number 11, Oronde Gadsden of the Chargers. Number 12, Gunnar Helm of the Titans. Number 13, Eric All of the Bengals, followed by 14, Thomas Fidone of the Giants. 15, Mitchell Evans of the Panthers. 16, Cade Stover of the Texans. And number 17, Jared Wiley of the Chiefs. So, obviously, number 1, no conversation had. Brock Bowers, clearly the guy. Right after that, it goes straight into the rookie class from number 2 through number 7. And to me, there's not even a discussion of any of the second-year players leaping into that group. Loveland, Warren, I think are, for me, that's the order I prefer them. I know some people still are Warren, Loveland. I still continue to say the discussion of Elijah Arroyo, Terrence Ferguson, and Mason Taylor, you can shuffle them up and rank them any which way. I skewed towards Arroyo and I think the opportunity that exists there, followed by Ferguson attached to the Rams. I have my reservations about, while I think he could become the second option there for the Jets, how much are they going to pass this year? What's the long-term outlook at the quarterback position? So for now, I have, even though I like Mason Taylor, the prospect, better than Arroyo and Ferguson, and thought he was closer to Loveland and Warren than he was to Arroyo and Ferguson, for fantasy, I have it flip-flopped a little bit there. I think Harold Fannin and the upside and the intrigue and the college production put him clearly over last year's secondary tight end options like Sinnott, Jatavian Sanders, and Theo Johnson. So that's why Fannin comes there at 7. I do then pivot to the second-year guys. I know we didn't see much from Ben Sinnott. We're probably not going to see a ton this year as well. We saw a little bit of Jatavian Sanders, and we saw some glimpses of Theo Johnson. All of those guys had round 3 or round 4 draft capital. I'm going to put those guys over the other rookies from this year that are intriguing in Oronde Gadsden and Gunnar Helm. Helm had 4th round draft capital, very similar to Theo Johnson, but Chigakonkwo's there. Different type of players, but we'll see how Gunnar Helm fits. Oronde Gadsden, I think, is a really intriguing player, former wide receiver, converted to tight end. There's an opening there for the Chargers, so he might be able to seize it. But Theo Johnson is still, I think, in the position to be the clear Giants starting tight end. We'll see if he can show growth and improvement. He was showing some signs last year before an injury derailed the season. Ja'Tavion Sanders, he fell a little bit in last year's draft, but he had a lot of backers. Carolina's still looking for guys to emerge in that pass-catching core. Obviously, they drafted Ted McMillan. They have Adam Thielen there. We'll see about Xavier Legette in year 2. And then Ben Sinnott attached to a up-and-coming offense. So for me, Sinnott, Sanders, Theo Johnson would still be ahead of Gatson and Helm, even though I am intrigued by Gatson and could see a scenario where Gunnar Helm becomes the complete starting tight end there for the Titans. And then rounding it out, I really am still intrigued by Eric All. I understand the coming back from the injury, and then they gave Mike Gesicki the contract extension, so I think that really does hurt Eric All's dynasty value, but I'll say him just because I'm more intrigued with the prospect. But I also say keep an eye on Giants' 7th round pick, Thomas Fidone. If he starts to emerge, that's going to bring Theo Johnson down, but it could see Thomas Fidone leapfrog a couple guys on this list. This was a guy that once upon a time was the #1 tight end recruit in the country, ahead of Brock Bowers, very athletic, good movement skills. Injuries and other aspects derailed most of his college career, but he had a strong final season. I thought he was going to be a 4th or 5th round pick. He fell to the 7th round. I think he's got a real chance to make the roster and potentially to move up the depth chart in time there for the Giants. And then rounding it out, a couple guys from last year, Mitchell Evans, Cade Stover, Jared Wiley. We'll see if any of those guys get a chance to emerge into a more significant role. I have my reservations that we're going to see that. I think in Carolina, I think it's going to be Ja'Tavion Sanders more than Mitchell Evans in terms of the pass catching role. In Kansas City, Jared Wiley showed some bits and pieces, but I still don't think he's going to be a guy that emerges there. They have so many other weapons at the receiving room now. And then Cade Stover of the Texans, obviously Dalton Schultz still there. We'll see if Cade Stover gets a chance to develop into a more significant piece there for the Texans. So there it is, my combined Dynasty Rookie and second year rankings. I really do love to put these together because I really think it makes you think about what you thought of them as prospects, but then more importantly, especially if they didn't play much last year, but then trying to adjust for what we saw in year 1, what we think their growth potential could be in year 2, but combine that with the unknown of the rookies. And right now we're just going based on what we thought of them as prospects and opportunity based on draft capital and landing spot. It's an interesting dynamic that I think anybody who plays in Dynasty League should kind of think about it, because I think if you still have rookie drafts upcoming, there might come a time where you say, oh, I have a late 2nd round pick, and maybe people like having new draft picks. And people don't like guys sometimes and get frustrated by guys who didn't emerge from last year. But that sometimes creates a buying window. Like a guy like Trey Benson, his stock might be down a little bit right now. So maybe you get to a point in the draft where you like Trey Benson more than Jarquez Hunter or more than even Bashal Tudin. You might say, you know what, I'm gonna make a trade offer to the owner and see if he's down enough on Benson that I can take my mid to late 2nd round rookie pick and turn it into Trey Benson. And the same thing at the wide receiver position. Maybe you're a believer in Xavier Legette. Maybe you're a believer in Keon Coleman. You could probably get them for way less than where you drafted them last year. So maybe if you like them more than the Jalen Royals or the Jalen Knowles or the Isaac Teslas, you might be able to reach out and say, listen, you want a rookie? You want this draft pick? You want this rookie? Maybe let's make a swap. I'll take on Keon Coleman. I still like him, and I like the opportunity there in Buffalo, and you can look to make that trade. So I think there's some interesting trade discussion, especially at the running back and wide receiver positions. I think they're less at the quarterback and definitely less at the tight end, because I think it's Bowers, then everyone, a whole bunch from this year before you bring back more in. And the quarterback, I think it's Daniels, and I think it's however you want to rank the other guys from last year, 2, 3, 4, maybe even 5, before you kind of sneak in there Cam Ward with Michael Penix probably. So I think it's really the running back and the wide receivers is where the discussion points are for how to adjust these, how to look at these rankings, how to use them for startup dynasty leagues, how to make trade offers, and see maybe even the wide receivers. Like maybe somebody prefers Matthew Golden or Igbuka over Xavier Worthy. I wouldn't, but I could see there are people being out there maybe favoring Golden or Igbuka or that pick instead of Xavier Worthy. They look at the Chiefs. They think they have a lot of weapons. Maybe they don't think Xavier Worthy can take that next step. I think we started to see it last year. So I think there's a lot of pivot points where you can make trade offers and have trade conversations if you still have rookie drafts upcoming, or it's now the rookie drafts have come and gone, but people are still looking to tinker and make moves. You might see a second year value higher than a rookie, and sometimes people like the unknown, the mystery of the rookie more than what we saw, even if it was especially if it was 1 year and it wasn't a great rookie performance. I think there's sometimes an opportunity there where you can buy second year players because teams are looking at the unknown rather than what still could be unknown high ceiling from the second year player, but maybe a little bit down based on them not living up to rookie year expectations. So there it is, guys. My thoughts on combining last year's rookie class with this year's rookie class. I hope you found this valuable information. I know I like making these rankings. I think it helps me a lot in my own rookie drafts. If you're enjoying this content, please get over to the website, S2S Football, fastest and easiest way to get there. Check out our premium content tab. It is still not too late to buy the premium notebooks. I think you will get a lot of value of it. For $9.99, you get free notebooks. You get the rankings notebook, all these different rankings, my Dynasty Rookie rankings, my film rankings and tiers from before the draft. You get my IDP rookie rankings. You now get these combined Dynasty Rookie versus second year rankings. Soon my positional dynasty rankings will be fully updated for startup drafts or for more trade conversation as well. That's just the rankings notebook that will be updated all summer, constantly adjusted. Then you get the scouting notebook, which still has all my thoughts, detailed thoughts and scouting reports from so many of these rookies. And then you get the draft projections notebook, which the draft may have come and gone, but so much information in there. My snapshot thoughts on over 400 prospects, helpful, especially when training camp starts opening, preseason, and some of these guys who didn't even get drafted, some of these UDFA guys, some of these round 6, round 7 guys that maybe you don't know a lot back, you can look up my thoughts on them in the draft projections notebook as well. So, on behalf of my sound tech engineer, David Nakano, and myself, thank you for joining us, and we look forward next time taking you from Saturday to Sunday.